everyone. Welcome back to another Future of Work weekly report. I am your host, Zach Wright, founder and CEO of Grapevine Software, the virtual office platform for your remote and hybrid workforce to stay connected and engaged from anywhere in the world. Today, we have two amazing articles that we're going to dive into. One is from Forbes, the other is from Tech Times, and we're going to be discussing productivity as well as remote work and how that is impacting how people think about salaries. But before we dive into that, what I do want to mention with this episode is as we go through this, we're going to be talking about some areas where Grapevine can really help prepare you for the future of work. And so towards the end of this video, I'm actually going to pull up the screen and share Grapevine so you can take a look at it. And if you are interested after seeing the brief share, don't hesitate to go to our website, or there's a link in the description where you can schedule a demo with us to learn a little bit more and how we can increase your employee engagement with our virtual headquarters or intranet or social intranet that we have with Grapevine. So with that being said, let's go ahead and dive into the first article, which is from Forbes. It was published on April 22nd, so Monday of this week. And the title is The Myth of the Productivity Crisis. So like always, I'm going to go through the bullet points and then I'll add my inputs as we go if I have any. And if it makes sense, moving forward, I will share my screen to discuss like we did last week. But I think for this one, we're going to be able to just cover it. The next article, we might share our screen. So let's see how it goes. But let's go ahead and get started with the first bullet point here, which is rethinking productivity metrics. So the first call out here is the traditional view of productivity is outdated, overlooking technology's transformative potential. McKinsey's Global Institute suggests generative AI could unlock trillions in new value across sectors. And then I have a quote that I want to talk about before I give my insights here. But we're looking at productivity through a 20th century lens, applying yesterday's solutions and metrics to today's challenges. So what they're really calling out, in my opinion, from this article is that generative AI is going to be able to unlock a lot of automated tasks and mundane tasks, or what people would call administrative tasks, where AI can handle a lot of this on its own. And with that being said, we're going to have to look at how we work as employees. And as you'll see in this next bullet point, what they're really calling out is that the crisis in productivity is not in productivity itself, but a lack of imagination and vision. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the second bullet point, which is the real crisis, a lack of vision. And what they say here is what I just said, is the crisis lies not in productivity, but in leadership's lack of innovation or imagination and vision. They call out Deloitte's report emphasizes the importance of creativity and collaboration for organizational success. And then they repeat it with a quote that says, the real crisis is not productivity, but imagination. So let's talk about that for a second. The way that we work or have worked in the past is, okay, we have these metrics that we have to reach. And to reach those metrics, we have to do a certain amount of actions or activities. The perfect example of this is a sales team, right? So whenever we think about your traditional sales team, it's going to be based off, or your success is going to be based off the number of actions that you take to reach a deal that closes and becomes a customer, right? So you can think about manual phone calls. You can think about emails, even automated emails, because those automated emails have to be created before they can become automated, right? But imagine a world where generative AI becomes a reality and hyper personalization becomes feasible. And what I mean by that is Apollo.io is a good example of a company that could make this a reality, in my opinion, further than other people or other companies. So if we think about this, right now, I have a system set up in Apollo.io where I'm looking at high buying intent based off of my persona and our ICP, or our ideal customer profile. And so what that really means is whenever somebody reaches this threshold based off of these filters that we have, it sparks an alert that then sparks into a workflow that pushes out a sequence to those people who reach high intent on a social intranet, a knowledge management system, a remote office, right? And so I have that working on the back end for me. But imagine a world where we take it even a step further, where that sequence isn't necessarily saying the same thing, but it is triggering automated emails to go out on the days that you tell them to go out. But those automated emails leverage generative AI and information found on the internet to personalize each outreach based off of their actions on the internet, based off of what we know about them through maybe a LinkedIn profile or even LinkedIn actions that they take. Now, whenever you're reaching out to people, it is hyper personalized, and it's going to be able to meet that person where they are in that motion. And you don't have to do anything other than still make a phone call or try to connect with that person over a Zoom or a Teams meeting, whatever the case is. But just imagine that type of world. And I think that's what they're talking about whenever they're talking about rethinking productivity metrics, because those metrics of activities are no longer going to be something that the salesperson does on their own. They might set it up, or you might have a RevOps person working with them and building this system out. And then all they're really doing is trying to interact with that person once they reach back out to you and say, hey, this sounds very interesting. Let me talk to you about it. Right. So that is something that I'm envisioning. Right. And so if that's the case, then a KPI can't be to do this amount of outreaches per week or per month or per quarter. It then has to be really focused on closing the deals, right? I mean, there's tons of other examples, but in my previous history, I've been closer to the sales side and marketing side. And so those are the types of things. I will say, just to add on to this example, is like marketing with retargeting ads. If they could leverage the same approach as we just talked about with sales, then they can have hyper personalized automated too, using the information that's already out there or that they've given us personally through a landing page or whatever the case is, right? The opportunities to shift from these types of actions to creating leadership who has imagination and vision is going to be more focused on the high level strategies, the high level goals of what we're trying to achieve, instead of the mundane task or the administrative task that we're currently doing today. Right. And so whenever they're talking about the real crisis is lack of vision, I look at the vision, as many other people do, as the North Star. And so what it's telling us is, okay, what are we doing as a company? And why are we doing this as a company? And then the mission is going to be, what are we really trying to accomplish? What is the impact that we're trying to bring to the world? Why do we wake up every single day? So those two things have to be at the forefront for everybody in the organization, especially if you're 100% remote, because you're not going to be in the office to hear this over and over again. So you're going to need to make sure that you have clear communication with everyone. and you repeat this over and over again so it stays at the forefront of the employee's mind. Then you you have your North Star. Now you have to have your strategy, right? This is how we're going to measure the success. This is where the metrics come in of the new working world, where we take the mission, we take the vision, and then we take the strategy. And then we say, okay, what do we have to do to accomplish XYZ, which is the strategy? And then now in the past, we've used KPIs, OKRs, MBOs, or key performance indicators, objectives and key results, and then management by objectives. But in the new reality, we could still have those, but the details of those are going to be different. So it might not be to pick up the phone and call 50 people in a day or send out 100 emails. What might happen is, okay, what you need to do is build out your systems and processes to allow you to reach out to people 50 times automatically, and send emails automatically, and then have that constant loop, and then reach out to the people who are responding back to you, right? Or it could be social selling becomes a big part of this, right? And I'm just using sales again because my background allows me to talk to that a little bit more in depth opposed to other situations. And so as we continue to the next bullet point, they're calling for a bold reimagination. The future of work demands a shift from making processes faster, cheaper, to changing the nature of work. Productivity in the digital age should leverage AI to enhance human creativity and collaboration. And the quote that they talk about here is, what if the future workplace isn't about making existing processes faster or cheaper, but changing the nature of work? And that's kind of what we're talking about. But whenever I was giving the example, we are talking a little bit about processes. But it really is changing the nature of work, right? Because in that example, BDRs or business development representatives are not really going to be needed. I know that's tough to say and probably tougher to hear for a lot of people, but I'm not the first one to say it. So don't come at me. But it's just the truth. And what's really going to happen is the people who succeed, or the companies who succeed, are going to be able to learn how to leverage AI in how we work, right? And what that's going to allow us to do too is focus on more of what matters, more of the outcomes versus what I would call lagging indicators or the actions that we're taking. And so in addition to this, whenever they say changing the nature of work, I think what they could also mean is we won't have to work as hard or long of hours with the capabilities of AI being included here. Because the next bullet point, the role of AI in enabling innovation, they say that AI shouldn't be viewed solely as a tool for task automation, but as a catalyst for innovation. Smart machines can amplify human cognitive strengths, interact with customers, and extend physical capabilities. So, I mean, I'm not fully sold on this necessarily, other than I agree it shouldn't only be for task automation, but that is going to be a big part of how we change the nature of work, because a lot of the things that we're doing now manually or alongside of AI will eventually just be handled by AI, right? So it is for task automation, but what they're also saying here is that it can be a catalyst for innovation. So how can we leverage AI to amplify human cognitive strengths, interact with customers, and then extend physical capabilities? A lot of companies are already doing this. And then as AI improves, and then we get to that state of AGI, then we'll be able to really enhance this. But whenever they say human cognitive strengths, I look at this as a way to really allow people to have personalized onboarding and training, and then continuous learning, right? And so this is what I think about what's happening with the crisis of productivity. This is what they're saying as well. But the main theme of this is that productivity is no longer just inputs and outputs. It's a mixture of innovation. It's a mixture of collaboration. It's a mixture of being able to leverage AI to enhance how we work in the future, right? Now, one of the other things, not to get too futuristic, so I'll keep it high level, is with Meta glasses or Quest 3 or Apple Vision Pro, like these are all the first versions. They're only going to get better and better and better. They're going to get lighter and lighter and lighter. And eventually over time, we're going to be able to have glasses like I'm wearing right now, which I mean, we do with Meta, but you're going to be able to have it just like you would as normal prescription glasses and be able to have augmented reality. And you're going to be able to work through that lens. And my big picture vision of this is that whenever we get to that state, we're not necessarily going to be doing a lot of creating or producing as productivity is measured today. It's going to be strategic thinking, critical thinking, crisis thinking. How do we? So if I'm explaining this the way that I explain this to my wife whenever I go deep into the future, is I look at Grapevine specifically as the workplace of the future that is leveraging augmented reality as well as virtual reality with workplace capabilities and AI. So as someone asks you to do something, you don't necessarily pick up a keyboard or a mouse or a laptop. You look at it through your lens, and then you tell the computer what to do. And then you tweak it, it updates. You tweak it, it updates. So we're going to be able to work faster and faster and faster. And over time, that AI is going to be able to learn your style of working, right? So I use Canva instead of PowerPoint. I use Google Docs instead of Word. And they're going to know what I prefer. And they're going to know how I start to design certain elements in Canva. They're going to know I could even take this video, input it into my own AI, and then tell it to create a new future of work weekly report using 100% AI, and then take into consideration these articles. So this is the future of work for me. And that is the type of leadership that we're going to need to really see the future of work become what it can be in the future. Right. But in addition to that, an honorable article that we're not going to be discussing today, from CNA Singapore, actually. But they talk about the FWA, flexible work arrangements. And you're going to need to have clear communication, clear guidelines on what it is that your organization does, how it operates, and then be able to follow that through with great leadership that has imagination, innovation, transparency, all these types of things. But I'll stop there because we're getting long on this video. And what I want to do now is take a pause. Let me get some water in here. And I want to go ahead and go to the second article so we have enough time to pull up the screen and show you Grapevine as well before this weekly report ends. So again, that was the Forbes, the myth of the productivity crisis. We talked about the details of our thoughts and what they thought. But now let's go into the second article from Tech Times. This title is Remote Work takes priority over salary of major or the I can't talk. Remote work takes priority over salary for a majority of U.S. workers, survey shows. Um, this is a recent survey for almost half of American workers. The ability to work remotely now outweighs salary considerations. This was written on April 18th by Eno Flores. And let's go ahead and start with the first bullet point. This one should be a little bit shorter because it's a shorter article and it's more straightforward, but I want to make sure to call these certain things out. So, remote work preferences surge. A recent survey reveals that for 63% of American workers, the option to work remotely is now more important than salary considerations. Remote work benefits or offers benefits like better work-life balance and flexibility, which are increasingly valued post-pandemic. And then I put this one in here as a key call out. In 2023, Upwork reported that 12.7% of full-time positions were remote, with 28.2 positions adopting a hybrid approach. And that's important because what we'll see in this next bullet point is that that has significantly risen since that article. So the second bullet point is growing trend towards remote work. Despite the reopening of cities and offices, a significant portion of the workforce prefers full-time remote arrangements. Projections should suggest that by 2025, 22% of the American workforce comprising of 32.6 million individuals will be working remotely. So if we see that, so there was 12.7% of full-time positions that were remote. What they're saying is that that's going to rise by in 2025 to 22% of American workforce, and that's about 32.6 million. So we can already see that the headlines that are talking about remote work is dead back in 2023, or these companies that are still trying to do RTO or return to work or return to office policies, they're not following the trends. And over time, they're going to eventually have to adapt. And so that's why I wanted to call this out here, because it is a trend. People thought that, okay, the pandemic's over, we're going to go back to normal. We even saw that it was either the last weekly report or the week before, where now the majority of CEOs believe that the future of work is hybrid, versus they thought that by, I think it was 2026, that we would go back to normal working elements. And that's just not what we're seeing through the data. So if you're one of those people who still think that we're going to go back to 5 days a week in the office, you might want to rethink it. You might want to read some of these articles and see how other people are doing it. If you want good references, GitLab and Atlassian have great information out there about remote work. Hopefully, we're going to be one of those organizations that you can rely on for the future of work information. That's why we do these types of videos here. But let's go ahead and continue. There's two more bullet points. Like I said, this one's going to be pretty quick. So, sacrificing salary for remote work. Many workers are willing to prioritize remote work despite potential salary reductions. Studies show that 63% of employees are prepared to accept lower pay. I don't know what happened there. The camera went off. But 63% of employees are prepared to accept lower pay to retain remote work privileges, with some willing to sacrifice up to 20% or more of their earnings. Now, my fear is that organizations are going to see this and then they're going to start offering less. It's not that they want less money. It's that they're willing to accept it to have a better work-life balance. So my recommendation is to still give the people what they deserve, because if we think back to Daniel H. Pink's book Drive, what really motivates us, or what the surprising truths of what really motivates us, is that, like the Maslow hierarchy of needs, In a workplace, an employee needs to have sufficient salaries to take money off of the table. Now, my thought here is that the majority of people working 100% remote are knowledge workers. So they're already making a decent amount compared to blue collar workers. So they're able to take a reduction in salary. And then they're also probably weighing out the pros and cons. One, you don't have to go into the office. Whenever you don't go into the office, you're saving on gas, you're saving on time, you're probably saving money because you're more likely to go out with your colleagues and maybe have lunch and spend your own money, all that type of stuff. But to finish my thought here, you have to give your employees a certain level of salary that matches what they need to survive, or they're going to look somewhere else and find a position that really benefits them with their work-life balance, but also the salary. So I know that this article is all about that remote workers are willing to accept lower salaries. Don't take that as an invitation and actually do it, but it is something to consider. And so, and that's good. If I look at it from my perspective as a startup founder who is 100% bootstrapped, right? If I can get remote workers for a little bit less, and then I give them the ability to have a better work-life balance, then I'm getting better people than I normally would if I was, if I had investors, or compared to another company who requires them to be in the office. We could be the attractive employer at that stage. So that's something to think about as well. Okay, the last bullet point for this article is implications and thought leadership. So embracing remote work has broader implications beyond individual preferences. It challenges conventional notions of work-life balance and prompts organizations to rethink their approach to talent management and workplace culture. Furthermore, the rise of remote work highlights the need for careful consideration and adaptation by employers and policymakers to ensure positive outcomes for all stakeholders. So, I mean, that is, you can take it as at face value there. But remote work challenges the conventional notion of work-life balance. And that's why if we combine the review of both of these articles, that's why it's so important for organizations to ensure that their leaders understand how to be leaders in a flexible, hybrid, or remote working world, because they are significantly different. And that's where Grapevine can come in to really help, right? And so what I want to do now is go ahead and share my screen with our testing account. So it's not going to be perfect, but I want to show you what Grapevine can help you overcome as far as communication and collaboration in a remote environment. So let's go ahead and dive into that screen sharing section here. Okay, so I'm mainly going to stay on this page. There are a lot of other pages and functionalities of our virtual HQ here at Grapevine Software. But the main point of me sharing the screen and showing you Grapevine in this Future of Work weekly report is that I wanted you to see that there are tools out there that can really improve the way that you communicate, collaborate, and connect as a distributed workforce, right? Because whenever we think about remote work or flexible work, we used to have a place to call home as employees, and that was the physical office. We would go there, we would have meetings, we would stay aligned, but there was a lot of things that we let slide, and that was because we could. Now, in a remote environment, you have to keep your employees updated. You have to keep them enthusiastic about what's going on, because there isn't that in-office camaraderie. And so what we're doing with Grapevine is we're providing a solution to some of the biggest remote and hybrid challenges, mainly communication and collaboration. So what we're looking at here is the company's social intranet homepage. And this is going to be where you get your updates from your executives, your C-suite level executives, your head of departments, your HR team, anybody who has to give updates to the entire company, they're going to have access to post here. And just for an example, you can see what I've done here. So it says, here are the Grapevine software MVP details. So you'll notice this is a link. So unlike social media out in the public, you can add links here so employees can get direct access to that document. But then you can also format it with bullet points and keep it clear. And then you can have them have a call to action. So make sure to save this to your My Docs so they can go and view it later. And yes, that does mean that it will be living in Grapevine. Then you can add a fun image to tie to it, or you don't have to. It's up to you. And so that's a way to break through that channel congestion that we often see in Slack or Zoom chat or MS Teams. And then you also reduce the amount of emails that you send out internally, right? There's so many chains. Now, although only the admins can post here, anybody can come in here and like it. And so you can see I've already written this, so you didn't have to watch me type, but wow, I'm looking forward to the MVP. Let's go. And then other people can come in here and they can even comment to that reply, or they can comment to the original post here too. So that's one channel that you can do for company updates and not have to send out a boring email or a boring text in a communications platform like Slack or Zoom or whatever. We love those companies, don't worry. But we just think that there's a better way, especially for remote and hybrid teams. Now, the other aspect is you can have announcements here. And these are all very easy to do. So you upload an image, you put in the title, you add the description, you can add a link if you wanted to, and then you add the update. And what this does is, I think about this as, okay, is there an industry update that we need to show the team so the sales team can be ready whenever somebody brings it up? Or has our competitor done something that we want everybody in the company to stay abreast on? And if that's the case, let's get it out here. And what you'll notice is on here, there's blank notifications. This is our testing link. But anytime that someone posts an announcement, a news feed, a company event, a social media post, it's going to pop up here in the notifications, right? And speaking of company events, this is where you can have anything that's taking place, right? So you might have a company all hands. You'll go here, you'll put in the link. People will know when that time is coming. This will also integrate with Google Calendar, and then eventually MS Teams and Zoom. But we also have areas of holiday events too. But then you can connect with your coworkers as well. And what this means is really like following somebody on LinkedIn. So anytime that they post, you'll be able to be updated. I look at this as employee relationship building. So if you follow your manager, anytime that they post, you'll be able to get that update. And that's important, right? And vice versa. Then we have social media posts, which I look at as employee advocacy. So anytime that somebody comes in here, if I click on this, it will take me directly to LinkedIn. But it's not that we're writing the caption. We're giving the team a specific call to action. So be sure to share our latest post and leave your own thoughts in the comments or on a repost. So that's what we want the employees to do whenever they click on this. So you can already see that we're providing clear communication channels in one system. Not to mention that this is also going to be where your information lives, as far as documents, as far as files, as far as policies, right? Before I go to human resources in the community, this is our Figgy chat. So this is how you communicate in real time if you want to connect with your coworker to collaborate on something specific or ask them a simple question. Then you have a specific area for your benefits and policies, your upcoming holidays, your employee handbooks, any important documents from HR, required training, as well as additional videos. And I look at this as the continuous learning aspect of it. And then the community is where anybody can post anything. So this is our company news feed. And this is where I say, this is where camaraderie happens. So if I wanted to, I could post something that happened fun. So let's just say, let's just use this one. Hi team, for anyone looking to have a great co-working space, check out Radius. Amazing places on there. And then I'm assuming what would happen is whenever you post this, people are going to come in here and comment and say they're going to like it. They're going to say, wow, what is Radius? I'm going to check it out now. And from there, now you're having a conversation. You're building that culture time and time again, each time that there's a post here. And then the last part that I'll show you, there's a lot more in here. So if you want to get more, check us out on the demo on demand on the website, or reach out to me directly and we can schedule a demo. That should also be in the show notes as well. But here we have the employee profile. Can't talk. So you'll just come in here and put in your information. And then let's just keep it simple right now. We'll just make up a date. We'll have it today. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. And then we'll just do London for right now. So now you have this aspect. People can see where you're located. And then you can have your own site, remote, hybrid, which department you work in, who do you report to, and then leadership. You could have Salesforce, HubSpot, Apollo. I'm just thinking of things that I've been using lately. But then in addition to that, you also have your hobbies. So the importance of this is anything that's inputted here is searchable on the employee directory. And so I've already gone in deeper than I wanted to. So let's just stop right there. If you want to see more about Grapevine, or if you want to adopt Grapevine into your organization, feel free to reach out to me or use the links in the description below. But that's it. That's the weekly report. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next Future of Work weekly report.